V8 tracks. I had to do it to him.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at a controller from 8Bitdo. It's one that I'm sure a lot of people have looked at, reviewed. I specifically wanted to find a controller that I could use to replace my Microsoft Elite 2 Pro controller. That one started to go out, and I needed to find a budget-friendly controller, and 8Bitdo has a lot of cool retro controllers, and I've used them in the past, and I've had really good experiences with them. So I thought I'd try this new one out. It's the Pro 2 wired gamepad, and I got the wired version specifically because I tend to use the controller wired in just to avoid any kind of latency on inputs. I tend to play a lot of fighting games, so this is usually the best way to go. Going wired, it's always going to be the lowest latency. Let's go ahead and get into the controller that we have here today, because we have an unboxing as well. It's still pretty much new in the box, so let's take a look. Okay, as you see here, 8Bitdo Pro 2 wired gamepad, designed for Switch and Windows. You'll see right here in the box, Switch 3.0 and above, and Windows support for Windows 10 and above. This is the gray edition. There's also a second edition that comes in more of a Game Boy color scheme, which looks pretty cool. I went with this one just simply because it was on sale, so it was cheaper than the other one. Didn't make a difference to me. Maybe it will for you. So let's go ahead and dive into the box. Okay, go. Let's set this box aside for now. You'll see here, nice simple packaging. Obviously it's the wired controller, so wires obviously attached. It's not detachable, so that's what you're getting with this version. USB and simple straightforward manual that it comes with, controller layout. Big thing about this one here, good selling point, is there are two programmable buttons right on the back here. Put them up to the mic here. Here, very clicky buttons. I prefer that. You have your analog triggers back here. Triggers L2, R2 seem to have a good amount of tension on them. I've tried other controllers before, especially when you start getting into the budget controllers, where you really lack tension. This one seems pretty nice. Cookie LR buttons, very good. This film off. So analog sticks feel very responsive. Getting close there, you can see concave design. Both sticks, obviously. Gloss black side. Here's the sound buttons, very clicky, responsive. Select the start buttons here. Those seem very nice. Some amount of cushion to it, rubbery. Now the D-pad. This one feels very similar to another controller that I have, also from 8Bitdo, that I use for my Super Nintendo. This feels good. It is, you could tell it still has a rubber membrane underneath, so the whole, pad is going to move as one piece rather than a mechanical D-pad. Then you'll have your other buttons here. I believe you have 4 LEDs here at the bottom, and we'll get into see what that covers. But yeah, you'll have here, button here, and a button here. Looks like these are designated more for the Switch, and I actually don't plan on using this for a Switch. This is simply going to be used for PC, Steam games, things of that sort. So I'm not sure if you can program these buttons or not. Perhaps, maybe going through Steam, you can assign these to things. This will be very interesting to see what we can assign for the back buttons. But overall, it feels like a solid controller. We have yet to try it out to see if it's going to do what I need it to do. I think it's just time for us to plug it in and test and see how it works out on some games. But simply, I think what I want to do is we're just going to go ahead and review this for a fighting game that I'm using, Street Fighter 6. So if you guys are big avid fighting game fans, let's see if this budget controller will get the job done. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. So basically on this controller, I'm looking for a few things. I want to know that the D-pad is going to be able to respond the way I need it to quickly. I do need to forward dash run. I need to make sure that there's no false inputs when jumping and crouching, things of that sort. And then yeah, just the whole ergonomics of the controller is going to be a good fit. Let's go ahead and dive in. It is very comfortable, I'll give it that. So far, just holding it in my hands doesn't feel awkward at all. Good sign. You do see the LED on here with the one light. So we haven't had, you know, I'm just jumping in and we're not gonna go through the instruction manual. I just want to get the first feel of it. We'll get into the details, features later on. I will say it's a little different from coming from an Xbox controller, just because the D-pad is where the analog stick typically is on that controller. Now I have to adjust my hands from not being up there. See, by instinct I actually went down here real quick, which I don't want to do. Uh-oh. Although I do find it easier to hit both buttons at once, because they have this more of a hard edge design on the buttons as opposed to the rounded bubble design of these buttons on the Elite Pro 2. So when I'm trying to mash, because I do tend to have to push both of those buttons a lot at the same time in this game, it works way better here. But that there's a plus on that. Yeah, you can see I'm using the analog sticks now. No complaints, a lot of nice tension on it. The controller itself it's not super light, it's not super heavy, it's kind of more on the medium. Yeah, probably the more medium weighted design. See, he jumped when I did not want him to jump. I don't know if it, yeah, see, he's jumping when I don't want him to jump. It feels like there's a bit of a not perfect element to this D-pad, and that might just be from all D-pads that have that membrane design to it rather than mechanical switches underneath. So that could be an issue. He jumped again. I didn't want him to jump. Now the triggers are helpful because I have my dash up there. I do have to push him in probably a little further than the Elite controller. But the Elite controller, if you guys are familiar with that, that has switches on the back to designate how far in you want that button to go before it reacts. So, you know, that's just something you have to sacrifice on a budget controller. It's not going to have that option. But I think that's very easy to overcome, just from what I'm feeling so far. Oh, took too long on that one. Okay. Yeah, so far I like a lot of stuff about the controller, more than I thought I was going to like. But this D-pad with the jumping, that might be an issue. Running, like the quick double tap on the forward to run, the dash, that I could probably deal with. But it's when I'm pushing forward or back, he might accidentally jump when I'm not trying to jump. Right there, I didn't want to jump there and it happened. So I don't know if it's just my muscle memory of using the other controller that I might have to get adjusted on this one. But I think it'll probably take a good solid week of playing with this controller to see if I can change my habits and make him stop jumping when I don't want him to jump. As you'll hear and see the difference here between these two controllers. This, mechanical, much more clicky. So if we were to open this up, you would see the difference. Okay, so what we're doing is now we're comparing these two controllers, because I'm used to this we're switching to this D-pad. The D-pad here, I love the D-pad on this. Like, I wish nothing would have went wrong with this controller, because the D-pad I feel functions great. The D-pad here, it's more of a mushy kind of rubber membrane underneath, as opposed to the clicky mechanical buttons on the Microsoft Elite 2. So that being said, just playing right now, there was a couple of times you may have noticed where I was trying to either move forward or move backwards, and I ended up jumping, and that was an inadvertent jump. I didn't want to jump, and it still happened, and it happened on more than one occasion. So that could be something to do with my muscle memory, my hand playing style, because it's so used to this controller. You'll see that the analog stick and the D-pad are flipped on this controller. So I'm also getting used to the feel of moving my thumb up here rather than down here. That's probably just a little bit of a learning curve that I'm gonna have to adjust to probably over the next week. I feel that should be enough time to get familiar with it, and maybe then I could get a better assessment. But yeah, so far I like a good, I would say 80% of what I'm getting out of this right now. If you obviously have a budget for a better controller, of course, maybe you won't have the luck that I did with this controller here, the Microsoft Series 2 Elite. But if you want to put the money into it, just take my word of advice. You could definitely encounter some issues. When I looked up the issues for this controller online, I see that a lot of other people had the shoulder buttons going out as well. I'm sure stick drift's always going to be a concern when you have this type of analog stick technology. And you know, I'm quite surprised that I'm not hitting the back programmable buttons by accident. I could feel them there, but I'm not pushing them. I thought I would be over here squeezing them by accident, and no, nothing. It's good. More of the pressure I feel is on my pinky grabbing that part of the controller. So yeah, they thought it through, or they put those buttons in a good place. Here, we'll play here again. Okay, I'll show you the top of the controller as I'm using it. I'm pulling the trigger because this is how I have my setup. I have to hold that button down and then double forward to run, and I feel it's pretty comfortable that I can do that now, no issues. Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised. I've tried other budget controllers to do that double forward run, and it was horrible. This one's not bad. I think what I just noticed right now is if you're into playing footsies, the back and forth, left and right, when you're doing that on this controller, there's a lot more travel I feel to it now. So every so often I'll do the footsie game, but I'm not a big strategy where I'm playing footsies all day long. If you are, you're gonna want to reconsider maybe this D-pad. Unless you use this, but I don't know many people that use that for a fighting game. But I feel like for the money, this is a great controller. You do not hesitate spending about $20 or so for this controller. It should do everything that you want it to do. This looks like a controller that obviously it's modeled after the original PlayStation, probably DualShock controller with the analog sticks. But I can easily see using this for a ton of retro games and not having any issues. For instance, I'm using this obviously on a modern fighting game, but it's still getting the job done. So I honestly say it's a good purchase. If you're not looking for a wireless controller, this works out great for me. This is how I like to play anyways. Even with a wireless controller, I still use the wire. Again, that's to reduce latency on the inputs on the fighting game. That's drastically important. But yeah, I think obviously they have these as well in the wireless version as well. Might be a few bucks more, but it's there if you want it. Okay, I'm just focusing on the analog sticks right now, running around the hub. These feel no different than any other Microsoft Elite controller that I was using before. So these are quality. Alright, so as you can see, we took it on a test drive, Street Fighter 6. performed a lot better than I thought it was going to, especially when it came to that D-pad. I've used other controllers around this price range before, and very poor performance on those D-pads. I won't completely go into how many controllers I've ran through, but this one here from 8Bitdo definitely outperformed them. And it's not a perfect D-pad. If you are used to using something like the Microsoft Elite Pro 2 controller that has a mechanical D-pad, that's obviously going to always outperform a rubber membrane D-pad. But for this price range and what it's able to accomplish for me, it's a great buy. I wouldn't hesitate getting this, especially if you can find a Black Friday deal. It's already low price, but I'm sure if you got it for anything less than I paid for it, it's a steal. Again, there's two different variations of it. There's this color here in gray. You also have the Game Boy color variation, which looks pretty cool. It's a nice retro color. So I specifically looked at a controller that I could get for kind of budget price range, and that would have a decent D-pad for me to get by. Maybe down the line I'll end up buying another expensive controller. I wasn't about to buy a third expensive controller, and I'm pretty sure if you guys, you know, have some those pro controllers in mind, maybe don't have the money for it, this will definitely hold you over till then. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take a look at Steam, go into the settings and go to controller. There's an area here we can click on begin test, and this will just simply test the inputs of your controller, make sure everything's functioning as needed. And here we are. Here's the layout of the controller. It's obviously not the one we're particularly using, although you might be able to update that image. But X input controller is just pretty much anything that's connected via USB. You can see it's registering the inputs on the D-pad. Analog stick, left joystick, you can see the values changing. Right input seems to be working. Right trigger, left trigger. Yeah, show you at the top of the screen there. Those buttons are registering the inputs on the shoulder buttons. Two buttons mapped out here. So another thing that it actually has, and I don't even know if it's marketed on the box as supporting rumble. There you go. Click the rumble button. We are getting rumble. So you're not sacrificing any kind of vibration rumble capabilities. That is packed into this controller as well. Okay, so I wanted to come over here to the 8Bitdo website and check out maybe some of the FAQs on this controller, see if there's any questions on here that you guys might have that they already have the answer here for you. What devices, platforms does it work with to play games? It works with Switch, console, Windows 10, 11 on PC, Android, and Raspberry Pi. That's pretty nice. Is the Pro 2 wired controller compatible with Linux, iOS, or other operating systems to play games? No, but normally for Raspberry Pi, you can hold the B button and plug the controller into play. You're good there. How long is the USB cable of Pro 2 wired controller? The USB cable is 3 meters. Does 8Bitdo Ultimate software support this controller? Yes, but it's only available to use on Windows platform. Is the Pro 2 wired controller able to play Android games? You can use an OTG converter to connect your Android device and controller. Hold X or B, then connect the controller to your Android device to enter its X input mode or D input mode to play Android games. Does the Pro 2 wired controller have trigger vibration function? No, only the controller that is officially licensed by Xbox has this feature. The Pro 2 wired controller has only 2 asymmetrical rumble motors at the grip. What can I do with the 8Bitdo Ultimate software? Is a macro function available? 8Bitdo Ultimate software gives you elite control over every piece of your controller. Customizable button mapping, adjust stick and trigger sensitivity, vibration control, and create macros with any button combination. Press profile switch button to turn on and off and switch between 3 custom profiles. So that's huge. There's a lot of customization you can use on this controller. Huge selling point. Does it have a Mac version of the 8Bitdo Ultimate software on PC for Pro 2 wired controller? No, there's only a Windows PC version. Sorry, Mac users. Is the connector of the cable USB-A or USB-C? It is a USB-A connector. Does it have turbo function when used on PC? yes, you can enable this feature and swap the start button to turbo in 8BitDo Ultimate software. So that's something that we didn't really dive into too much, but this also has a turbo function on it, and that would probably be very nice for a retro game player, something like maybe one of the original Mega Man games. Instead of having to mash your arm cannon, you can just hold it down and you just fire away. I'm sure you can adjust the speeds on that as well through the 8BitDo Ultimate software. So an additional cherry on top feature. Is the USB cable of the controller detachable? No, it is not detachable. If I map L3 and R3 buttons to P1 and P2 back buttons, can I disable the L3 and R3 inputs themselves? And I'm sure, just in case you guys aren't familiar, you might be asking, where's the L3, where's the R3? Well, left analog stick, right analog stick, once you push them in, those are your L3 and R3 buttons that they're referring to. And it's giving you a great option here. It says, yes, you can set the L3 and R3 buttons as null in the 8BitDo Ultimate software. So you can completely deactivate the L3 and R3 accidental clicks on the analog stick. That's huge. I sometimes don't want it on a game and I find myself clicking it by accident. This will eliminate that problem. Does it have screenshot, home, turbo buttons, and NFC wake up motion controls function while in use on Switch console? If the controller is connected to Switch, the start button corresponds to screenshot and logo button corresponds to home. There's no NFC, wake up and motion controls function. When the controller is on Switch working mode, Y plus start, you need to swap the star button to turbo in the 8BitDo Ultimate software to activate the turbo function. If you use the controller on a PC or other devices in X input or D input mode, the initial default input for start button is turbo. Why there is no response when it's connected to Raspberry Pi. The working modes of the device that the Pro 2 wired controller is able to auto recognize and connect are normally X input and switch mode, where areas for the device like Raspberry Pi that is required to use D input. You need to manually activate the working mode as hold the B button first, then connect the controller to the device. Alright, so there you have it, folks. There's a good amount of FAQs that I thought I'd touch on just in case you guys had those questions on the back of your head. I hope that helps answer them for you. Obviously, come back and check on 8BitDo's website periodically. Sometimes there are firmware software updates which could change some of the functionality of the controller, but overall I don't think that's going to change all that much from what you're seeing here. Okay, and as I told you before, there is a wireless Bluetooth iteration of this controller. So if you're not necessarily looking for a wired controller, they have looks like the same exact controller, just wirelessly now. Looks like it has a USB-C connector as well, so that looks pretty up to date. Okay, so if you take a look here, there's a special edition out right now. It's $49.99. Looks like it's a transparent black plastic finish, which seems pretty cool. I mean, if you're into that thing, you got an extra few bucks to spend, sure, why not? This is $49.99, but I will show you where I purchased mine from, and pretty big price difference. Okay, and here's where I purchased my controller from, Amazon. As of today, November 20th, 2023, it's $21.99, and it even says it's the lowest price in the last 30 days. So if you guys are watching this right about this time, feel free to go and check it out, get it on a discount. Looks like the list price is $34.99. Definitely a good buy. I recommend it. I probably would have paid like 40 bucks for it at one point if I really wanted it. Here is the other color variation. Pretty nice. I think that one, that one's actually $1 more. I think when I purchased mine, I don't think that was the difference. I think this was probably at least $5 more when I looked. Had I seen this price, I would have bought this color. This one's pretty nice. I like the way the contrast of the purple buttons look on this controller. All right, so we checked out a couple of sites. We've looked at 8BitDo's site directly. Looks like they're going to have a lot of the more special editions, and probably have enough stock for you guys whenever you need to go in there and get what you want. This one's a cool purple looking one too. These are the Bluetooth wireless edition, so don't get confused. There is a reason why it's a lot more than the wired version, but if you're like myself and you're not even planning on using it wirelessly all that often, might as well save some money, get the wired version. get it from Amazon. Right now it's on sale. I'll drop the links in the description below so you guys have quick access. I don't get any kind of kickbacks or anything from that. That's just to help you guys out, get to it quicker. Alright, so I hope this video was helpful for you guys to determine if this is a good controller for you to get. If you're someone that likes to play a lot of fighting games and may not necessarily have the budget to get a nice pro controller with mechanical D-pad switches, this will get the job done. It's a great deal right now. For about 20 bucks, you can have a nice controller with shock features on it. So it has your vibration, it has turbo functionality, it's multi-platform, so you can use it on your Switch, you could use it on PC, Windows devices. It just seems like it's a great way to go. I've used some other controllers. If you guys are in the market for things like a PXN controller, I will say that I have used that recently, and this one does outperform it. So I would say lean this way if you are looking at somewhere in this price range, from like a $20 to $30 controller. This is definitely a good buy. I don't give endorsements lightly. The Xbox Series 2 Elite controller that I've had, that one, sadly, it doesn't last. It's great if you have a brand new one, it's working flawlessly, then yeah, obviously this is the way to go. It is wireless, it's wired. Couldn't say a whole lot about the performance. It was my go-to controller, but because this is the second one that I've had that broke, I just can't wholeheartedly recommend you guys going to purchase this controller, knowing the cost of this thing is not cheap. You know, you want to find a controller that's not only performance driven, but also something in a reasonable cost and that's gonna last. I feel that 8BitDo has done me well. I've had other controllers throughout the years. I have another one right here in front of me. I use this for my Super Nintendo. This is their Bluetooth wireless controller, and it comes with this adapter that goes right into your front of your Super Nintendo. This thing has worked great for years for me, never complained. That's why I figured when I picked up this 8BitDo Pro2 controller that it was gonna go ahead and be a quality item. So if this controller is sitting in your shopping cart right now online and you're not sure whether to click buy or not, I'll give you my recommendation. I feel it's a great way to go. Tried quite a bit of different controllers, from the PXN, different iterations of the 8BitDo Microsoft control, the Xbox controller, the one's officially licensed. I've tried that as well, and I still feel that this one outperformed all of them. Again, when it comes down to playing footsies on Street Fighter, maybe not the best performance. So if that's your style, yeah, maybe stray away and just go and get yourself a controller that has a mechanical D-pad. Well guys, thanks for checking out the video. I hope this helps with your purchasing decision on which controller to get. If you're a fighting game fan like myself, I hope to see you guys around on the next one. Go ahead and hit subscribe, drop me a like, much appreciated. Till the next one, 8Tracks out.